played against a 1700 rated guy who was 16 years old and from Norway. And we all know that Norway is a huge chess nation, but not only that, he'd actually gone to the same elite chess school as the world chess champion Magnus Carlsen, and then Tari, and a bunch of other top GMs. So I knew that this guy had some amazing coaches and was not 1700. I mean, he was way underrated. Now, in this tournament, he'd done a performance of 2170 prior to this game. So he was playing fantastically and gaining over 100 points of rating.
Which is unbelievable. Like, if I have a good tournament, I gain 5. This kid gained 150. So he's dangerous and he's in form.
So I decided to play an opening that I've never played before. I'll show you guys. So he went e4 and I went c5. And here we got an open Sicilian. Now in this position, typically I play e6, but as I said, I decided to surprise him and played e5 instead. And this is called the Lowenthal variation. I have never played this before. Now I'll show you what the idea of this is, but right now I'm threatening the knight, and if he goes knight f3 or knight b3, it's going to be very passive. So the most challenging move is for him to go knight b5, threatening to go knight d6 check. Now here went d6 to stop the knight from checking, knight c3, a6, and after knight a3, I went bishop e7. Now, the difference here from what I typically play is that in the position where I typically play, my knight is on f6 and the bishop is on g5 and he's able to go knight d5. I've waited with getting my knight out to stop him from going bishop g5. So here I just went bishop e7 and said, what are you going to do now? I'm going to be going knight f6 a little bit later. So he played knight d5, and this makes a lot of sense. This square is a fantastic square for the knight because it's hard for me to kick it away, and there's no pawn that can kick it away, so this knight is fantastic over here. And the whole game is actually going to be very much based on this d5 square. So I played in this position bishop e6. I probably perhaps should have played knight f6, but the position that I got after bishop e6 became very similar. So here I'm basically just putting some pressure on the knight. He went c4 to reinforce the knight, and now I played knight f6. Now we played bishop d3 to develop, and I castled and castled. So here we got the position out of the opening. We're now starting to enter the middle game, and it's now time to think about some plans. This is right now a key position. I need to figure out how is it that I'm going to maneuver my pieces around. Now, I really wanted to play f5 because this was one of the few ways that I saw that I could break the center, but obviously my knight is right now blocking my f-pawn. So I decided to play knight d7, and well, my commentator, Grandmaster Hammer, who is also from Norway, he said that this was a great move. So I was really happy about that. So after knight d7, for me the idea was that at some point I wanted to go f5, but perhaps even go knight c5. And I also wanted to make sure that there was never any knight b6 for him after some bishop e3. So here he played bishop e3, and I realized very quickly that my bishop over here on e7 is terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. It's being blocked by all of these pawns in the center. Typically you say that if a bishop is the same color as your central pawns, then it's a bad bishop because it's very useless. So I decided to exchange it for this one because I realized that this was my opponent's good bishop. This is the bad one. So I played bishop g5, and this is a good move because I'm exchanging now these bishops. So he played knight c2 to be able to capture here with the knight, and in this position I should actually probably have played a5 to stop him from getting any queenside space, but I decided to go for the idea knight c5. And what is the idea of this? Well, I thought that if I was able to get rid of this bishop, that I would be able to go f5 and that I would be able to break through the center, and this was actually a misconception. I mean, this is actually not the right plan. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a terrible mistake, but the issue here was that I allowed him to go b4, which is a good move, where he's getting a lot of space and he's threatening my knight. And I thought that after knight takes bishop, you know, this would be a huge thing. I got the bishop, but actually this bishop was really useless. So I should actually have stayed with my knight on d7 and gone a5 instead. But here, after captures and captures, I captured the bishop to exchange, and here I was really expecting him to capture back with this knight because I thought that if he captures with this, I'll be able to get my own knight to the center, and I'll be able to have a fantastic knight that cannot be kicked away by any pawn, which I was able to have, and I was really happy here about that. But But yeah, but here he played rook ac1, his idea being that he wanted to go c5 and start pushing his queenside pawns, and I started to get a little bit scared about that. So in this position, actually, I could have gone f5, which maybe is what I should have done, but I decided to get rid of this knight in the center because I thought that this knight was really, really, really scary. And in this position, I was absolutely sure that he was going to capture back with the knight because, I mean, this knight on d5 is just absolutely amazing. And I constantly thought that if he captured back with a pawn, I would be better because then this d6 pawn would never be an issue. We can see that this pawn over here is a backwards pawn that's not defended by any other pawn. But he captured with the e-pawn, and I was shocked.
To me, taking back with the knight is automatic. I'm not sure I would ever consider an alternative.
What? I can go f5? I'm going to get so much center. I was really shocked, and he did it very quickly as well. He didn't even think about this. He just played it very quickly. So in this position, I decided, okay, if he's taking with this pawn, then I can probably go ahead and start creating a little bit of a kingside attack over here. So I decided to go for queen g5. The characteristics in this position that we can see is that white over here is trying to go c5, and I am trying to get some kingside attack going on. Instead of queen g5, I could also try to go a5 to just try to simply exchange over here, because if after e5 he goes b5, I can always go b6 and he can never push. So I could have tried to do something like this, and this would perhaps have been the best option for me. But I decided to say, hey, I'm going to go queen g5, and I'm going to right now try to create a kingside attack. Now, I needed to constantly think about this move c5 because if this works for him, it's really scary for me because he's going to get a bunch of pawns just going down the board. And it can actually very quickly be completely winning for white. So I need to be very, very, very careful about the idea of c5 and c6. Now, in this position, he got scared. He was scared about my queen being on g5 looking towards his king, and so he played king h1 to get the king out of the pin. And I was really happy then because I felt like, okay, he's being intimidated by the moves that I'm doing. That's a good sign. So now I decided to go f5. Now, I just want to show really quickly, the reason I didn't go f5 here was because if he does this, then after captures and captures, my knight is trapped. So in this position, we can see that after queen g5, I can go f5 because now if f4, I can just capture it and my queen is defending this pawn. So here he played knight c2, which is a good move. He was once again exchanging his bad piece for my fantastic one, which is always something that's really important to do in chess. And here I didn't really have anything more to do than to capture. And I realized once again that he wants to go c5. This is a move that he wants to do. So I was contemplating going to e4 and start to just simply pushing my pawns with an idea like this. But I decided ultimately that if he wants to go c5, I'm going to play against his idea. So I went queen h4 with the idea that if he goes c5, I'll be able to capture on b4. So this move was actually a little bit annoying for him, and here he made a big mistake. And I think it comes a little bit from him not really expecting this move, queen h4. He played here rook c3. Now this is a bad move because it doesn't really do anything. The rook is actually better placed on c2 than over here. But actually, I think the reason why he wanted to do this was because he wanted to move a rook to this file, but that didn't really make any difference. So this wasn't a good move, and even after the game, he said, oh man, I was so sad when I played rook c3, I immediately realized it was a mistake. So he knew he had made a mistake. Now in this position, I did a good move, which was a5. I finally realized that I need to take care about these pawns over here. And with this idea, once again, if b5, I'm going to go b6, and if a3, I'll just take, and boom, this rook is going to be really active on the a file. So here, I think he went for c5, which is one of the most challenging moves, but he's giving me a pawn in this position. So I took the pawn on b4, threatening the rook, and the only thing he can do here is to go rook c4. Here he's threatening my queen, so I need to do something about that, but I really wanted to make sure that I was able to take this c5 pawn because I thought that this pawn was really scary if it was able to go to c6. So if I would have moved my queen somewhere, he was going to go c6 most probably. So I was scared about that. So I went e4 threatening the queen. Now if he captures my pawn on d6, I'll probably take the queen, he'll take mine, but then I'll be able to take here, and this won't be so scary for me. If he goes c6, once again, I'll probably capture, and then take there. And if he takes this pawn, well, then I'll take on c5, I'll threaten the rook, and I'll get my other pawn over here. So here, he pretty much had to move the queen, and then I decided to capture on c5. Queen f6, I'm simply trying to put my queen in a better position as my queen on h4 is not really doing anything anymore. And I was also trying to get my queen over here to maybe block this pawn. But this is a position where both of us felt pretty intimidated. We had both gone down quite a lot on time, and I could tell that we were both scared. I was scared because of my king. This diagonal can become very scary. My pawns are weak, and if he's able to get both of these pawns and this pawn becomes strong, I can be in a lot of trouble. And he was scared because his king is also weak, and if I'm able to get some of his pawns, then maybe my pawns could become strong. So this was a very double-edged position. Now, in this position, he played rook b1, threatening my pawn. And here was a crucial moment for me. I had 5 minutes on the clock, and I needed to make a decision on what I was going to do. Probably here, my best continuation would have been to go something like rook a3, to after, if he captures on b4, maybe try to get my queen to a6 and threaten both a checkmate and to threaten this pawn. We can see that there's a back rank going on over here for the king. So probably this would have been one of my best options. But in this position, my clock was ticking. I went really low on time, and so I went for the most forcing way and the safest way for me to play. Or at least I thought it was the safest way. I could also perhaps have gone queen d6, but I was scared of my pawn falling here. Like I said, a pretty difficult position. I play the move queen a6 with the idea that, well, if he captures this pawn, boom, I have a sneaky checkmate on f1. Obviously, he didn't miss that. If you have the same coach as Magnus Carlsen, you don't miss a checkmate in one. So he went h3 to get some space for the king. And here maybe b6 would have been the best continuation, but I got really scared and simply captured on a2. Now, after takes and takes, I actually need to be very careful. It's equal pawns, but if I'm not careful, his both rooks are going to get to the 7th file, and he's going to maybe start like taking all my pawns, and that could become super duper scary. So in this position, I decided to go for a very safe way of playing. I went rook e8, he captured on b7, and I went rook a7 because I knew that if we exchanged one rook, it was just going to be a draw. So after takes and takes, he played d6, and now it's really important for me that I don't go king f7 because there's going to be rook c7 check, and I'm losing. So I need to go rook d7, and now if check, king, and this, I can go king e6. So he captured my pawn on f5, and actually here I am worse because my pawn on e4 is very weak. So I need to find a way of exchanging this pawn for this one. If I'm able to do that, it's just going to be a complete draw. So he played rook e5, rook e5. I went rook d4 defending. Rook e7, stopping my king from going up. A very nice way of playing. King f8, I'm threatening the rook. The rook needs to move. And now I didn't really figure out what was the way for me to exchange this pawn for this one. So I went rook d2, which was fine, but maybe I should have gone rook d3 over here. But rook d2, king g1 is defending the pawn, and now I realize that I should have gone rook d3. The idea of this is simply that I'm going e3 and I'm going to be exchanging. So he went king f1, I went e3. If he would go king e2, then I can capture on f2, and after captures I make a queen, so we will exchange the pawns. And after I took the pawn and I took it back, we both knew that this was going to be a draw. And now it's important for me to go h5. And I mean, this is just a complete draw. There's never anything that I'll be able to do. He threatened, well, he first defended. I tried to get my king around over here, but he threatened. I went g6, rook a7, cutting my king off. And now there's nothing that I can do besides going back and forth with my rook. And after rook c3, I offered a draw, thinking that he was going to take it immediately. But he actually took like 40 seconds to take it. And I was like, you know, what are you thinking about? This is the most drawish position I've seen in my life. But it makes sense that he, you know, wanted to really digest, that's the word, the result and everything that had happened, as we had both been low on time. So he ended up taking the draw, and I drew against this underrated 1700 guy from Norway. I was pretty happy with the game. We actually both ended up having an accuracy of 96%, so it was a good accuracy, but yeah, I mean, I guess I was pushing for the win for the most of the game, but he defended really well, and it was hard for me to do anything. So tomorrow I'll be playing the final round of Rilton. I am right now on 5.5 points out of 8. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get a win. Hopefully I won't play against another underrated kid. We'll see what happens. But I'll be back with another recap tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all for round number 9.